Marcus Santoro didn't believe in coincidences. In his world, the dark, precise world of organized crime, coincidences got people killed. So when every screen in his private office went black at exactly 3:47 a.m., he knew this wasn't an accident. The compound was silent. His security team should have been monitoring everything. Instead, the monitors flickered once, twice, then displayed a message in blood-red letters. "Your empire ends tonight." Marcus grabbed his phone. Dead. The backup phone. Dead. Even the encrypted satellite device his tech team swore was unhackable. Completely useless. He walked to the reinforced steel door of his office and pulled the handle. Locked from the outside. Someone had turned his own fortress into a prison. "Mr. Santoro," a distorted voice crackled through the speaker system. "For 15 years you've operated in shadows. Tonight, we bring you into the light." Marcus's jaw tightened. He'd survived 3 assassination attempts, 2 FBI investigations, and a hostile takeover from the Volkov family. He wasn't about to fall to some anonymous hacker with a god complex. "Who are you?" he demanded. "Someone who knows everything. Your offshore accounts, frozen. Your encrypted communications, downloaded. Your shipping routes, compromised. Every transaction, every contact, every secret you thought was buried." The voice paused. "The FBI will receive all of it in exactly 6 hours. Unless you can stop me." The screens flickered again, showing live security footage from every angle of his compound. His men were running in confusion, weapons drawn, shouting into dead radios. The entire digital infrastructure had been gutted. Marcus had built his organization on 2 principles: loyalty and control. In 60 seconds, he'd lost the second. "What do you want?" "Nothing you can give me. This isn't about money, Mr. Santoro. This is about justice." The lights went out completely. 6 hours earlier, Elena Rodriguez was having the worst day of her 3-year career at Marino's, an upscale Italian restaurant in downtown Chicago. She'd spilled red wine on a city councilman's wife, mixed up orders for table 7, and discovered her rent check had bounced. Again. "Elena, table 12 needs their check," Giovanni, the floor manager, snapped. "And try to smile. You look like you're serving at a funeral." She forced her lips upward and grabbed the check folder. Table 12 had been occupied by the same man for 4 hours, a handsome guy in an expensive suit who'd ordered only espresso and left a book open in front of him. He never turned the pages. "Here you go, sir, whenever you're ready." He looked up, and Elena felt an unexpected jolt. Sharp green eyes, the kind that seemed to calculate everything in seconds. There was something magnetic about him, dangerous in a way that made her pulse quicken. "Thank you, Elena." He read her name tag, and the way he said her name felt oddly intimate. "Long shift? Is it that obvious? You've been on your feet since I arrived. I noticed things." He pulled out a black card and handed it to her. "Keep the change." Elena glanced at the bill. $68 for coffee over 4 hours. When she ran the card, her eyes widened. He tipped $300. She rushed back. "Sir, I think there's a mistake." "No mistake." He stood, closing the book. "You work hard. And you're observant." "Observant?" He smiled slightly, and Elena felt her stomach flutter. "You've looked at me exactly 7 times in 4 hours. Each time your eyes went to my hands first, then my face, then the exits. That's not typical server behavior. That's someone who's learned to read danger." Elena's stomach dropped. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you don't." He straightened his tie, drawing her attention to his broad shoulders. "But if you ever get tired of carrying plates, I know people who could use someone with your particular awareness." He placed a business card on the table. "Think about it." He walked out before she could respond, leaving behind the faint scent of expensive cologne and the unsettling feeling that her life had just shifted in a direction she couldn't predict. Elena picked up the card. No name, just a phone number and 4 words. When normal isn't enough. She should have thrown it away. Instead, she slipped it into her apron pocket, her fingers brushing against it throughout the rest of her shift like a secret she couldn't quite let go. At 3:52 a.m., Marcus finally pried open the office door using a letter opener and brute force. The hallway was dark. Emergency lights should have activated automatically, but even those were dead. He found his head of security, Vincent, in the control room, surrounded by 6 guards, all staring at blank screens. "Boss, everything's down. Phones, internet, security cameras, electronic locks, all of it. Someone got past every firewall." "How long ago?" 5 minutes. "We were locked out instantly." Marcus scanned the room. His security team was ex-military, trained for physical threats. But this enemy was invisible, untouchable. They were fighting shadows with guns. Get the off-site backup team on analog phones, now. Vincent's face fell. I tried. The landlines are dead too, even the ones that aren't on our network. Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in over a decade. Genuine fear. Whoever orchestrated this had planned meticulously. They'd studied his systems, found every vulnerability, and exploited them simultaneously. 6 hours, he muttered. They said we have 6 hours. Until what? Until everything I've built gets handed to the FBI. Vincent paled. Boss, if they have our files, I know what it means. Marcus cut him off. Every transaction, every judge on payroll, every operation that kept his organization running, his entire empire documented in meticulous detail because he'd trusted encryption. Trust, such a fatal mistake. We need someone from outside, Marcus said suddenly. Someone who doesn't exist in our network, who can't be traced back to us. Like who? Marcus remembered something from last month. His accountant had mentioned a problem with the restaurant's point-of-sale system, how it had been hacked, then mysteriously fixed overnight. When they reviewed the security footage, they'd seen a server staying late, a laptop open, fingers flying across keys with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. He'd been curious then. Now he was desperate. I need you to find someone for me, Marcus said. A waitress named Elena Rodriguez. She works at Marino's. Elena was walking home at 4:30 a.m. after closing shift when a black SUV pulled up beside her. Her hand instinctively went to the pepper spray in her pocket. The window rolled down. The man from table 12 looked out, and despite her fear, Elena felt that same inexplicable pull toward him. Get in. Absolutely not. Elena Rodriguez, 26 years old, computer science degree from Northwestern, graduated top 5%. Dropped out of a PhD program 3 years ago after your brother was killed in a convenience store robbery. His voice was matter-of-fact, clinical. You work 60-hour weeks at Marino's because you're supporting your mother and paying off your student loans. And 3 weeks ago you hacked into the restaurant's financial system and fixed an error that would have bankrupted Giovanni. Elena's blood ran cold. How do you? I told you. I notice things. And right now, I need someone who can do more than notice. I need someone who can act. He opened the door. I'm offering you $50,000 for 6 hours of work. Doing what? Saving my life. The streetlight cast shadows across his face, highlighting the sharp angles of his jaw, the intensity in his eyes. Elena's rational mind screamed at her to run, but $50,000 would cover her mother's medical bills, pay off 6 months of rent, and maybe, just maybe, give her a chance to breathe. And there was something else, something she didn't want to admit. She was curious about this man who'd watched her for 4 hours and seen things no one else had noticed. Against every instinct, she got in the car. The interior smelled like leather and danger. Marcus sat close enough that she could feel the heat from his body, and Elena found herself hyper-aware of every breath, every movement. What's your name? She asked. Marcus. He didn't offer a last name. And what exactly do you do, Marcus? He turned to look at her, and the intensity of his gaze made her pulse race. I'll tell you everything when we arrive, but Elena, once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Are you sure you want to know? She should have said no, should have demanded to be let out immediately. Instead, she met his eyes and said, I'm sure. Something flickered in his expression. Respect, maybe, or recognition. Then let's see if you're as exceptional as I think you are. The compound looked like something from a crime movie. High walls, security cameras everywhere, guards with visible weapons. Elena realized with crystalline clarity that she'd just entered a world she couldn't simply walk away from. But when Marcus placed his hand on the small of her back to guide her inside, she found herself leaning into the touch rather than pulling away. They led her to a room where Marcus stood with his back to her. Broad shoulders, perfectly tailored suit, an aura of controlled violence that should have terrified her, but instead fascinated her. When he turned around, Elena understood why people feared him. Marcus Santoro had the kind of face that belonged on Roman coins, sharp, aristocratic, brutal. But there was something else in his eyes when he looked at her. Vulnerability, carefully hidden but unmistakable. Thank you for coming. I didn't have much choice after your friend ambushed me. Marcus almost smiled, and Elena noticed how it softened his features. Fair point. Let me be direct. Someone has hacked every system I own. He checked his watch, and she noticed the elegant movement of his hands. 5 hours and 32 minutes. They'll send everything they've stolen to law enforcement. I need you to stop them. You have a whole tech team. Why me? Because my tech team built the systems that just failed catastrophically. You're an outsider. You think differently. He gestured to a bank of dead computers. And according to my research, you're exceptional at what you do. Elena walked to the nearest terminal, aware of Marcus watching her every movement. She tried to power it on. Nothing. She checked the connections, traced the cables, aware that her demonstration of competence was also somehow a performance for him. These aren't just hacked. Someone's physically locked you out at the hardware level. Can you fix it? She turned to face him. First, tell me what you really do, and don't insult my intelligence with lies. Marcus studied her for a long moment, and Elena felt stripped bare under his gaze. I run an organization that operates outside legal boundaries. Import, export, financial services, all unregulated. Some would call it a crime family. The Mafia. That's a crude term, but yes. Elena should have walked out. Should have run screaming. Instead, she found herself asking, and if I help you, I become complicit in everything you do. No. You become someone who solved a technical problem for a generous fee. What I do with my recovered systems afterward isn't your concern. He stepped closer, and Elena caught that scent again. Cologne and danger. But I won't lie to you, Elena. Helping me means entering my world, and my world is complicated. It was a warning and an invitation. Elena felt the weight of the choice before her. 75,000. Marcus raised an eyebrow, and she saw amusement flicker across his face. You're negotiating? I'm establishing my value. You're desperate. I'm skilled. And we both know 50,000 was a lowball offer. He laughed, actually laughed, and the sound transformed him from dangerous to devastatingly attractive. 75,000 it is. If you succeed. When I succeed. Elena rolled up her sleeves. Now show me everything. As Marcus began explaining the systems, standing close enough that their shoulders almost touched, Elena realized she was in trouble, not just because she was helping a criminal, but because every time he looked at her with those intense green eyes, she forgot all the very good reasons she should be afraid. The attack was sophisticated. Whoever designed it understood not just programming, but psychology. They'd created a digital cage that would make Marcus feel helpless, trapped, exactly the way his victims probably felt. Elena spent the first hour just mapping the damage, acutely aware of Marcus's presence behind her. He didn't hover or micromanage. He simply watched, occasionally asking intelligent questions that revealed he understood more about technology than she'd expected. This is personal, she said finally. Someone really hates you. That doesn't narrow it down much. She almost laughed. Fair enough, but look at this. She pulled up fragmented code on her laptop. Marcus leaned over her shoulder to see the screen, and Elena's breath caught as his chest pressed lightly against her back. They left a signature. See these markers? This isn't just functional code. It's art. Whoever did this wanted you to know how good they are. Can you trace them? His voice was low, close to her ear, and Elena felt warmth spread through her body. Maybe. But that's not the priority. We need to stop the data transfer first. She tried to focus on the code and not on how good he smelled. They've set up multiple redundant uploads. Taking down one won't stop the others. So what do? We don't stop the uploads. We corrupt them. Elena turned her head and found Marcus's face inches from hers. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then she cleared her throat and looked back at the screen. Look, they've already copied your files. Trying to delete them now won't work. They'll have backups, mirrors, everything. But if we introduce errors into the data stream, make the files unreadable, the FBI will receive gibberish instead of evidence. Will they know the files were corrupted? Not if I do it right. It'll look like transmission errors, natural degradation. They'll think the hack partially failed. Marcus straightened, his hand brushing against her shoulder as he moved. You're brilliant. The simple compliment shouldn't have affected her so much, but Elena felt heat rise to her cheeks. I'm competent. There's a difference. No. His voice was firm. You're brilliant. Don't minimize what you can do. Their eyes met, and Elena saw something in his expression that made her heart race. Admiration, attraction, and something deeper that neither of them was ready to name. Vincent, who'd been watching silently from the corner, cleared his throat awkwardly. Boss, we have 4 hours and 51 minutes. The spell broke. Elena turned back to her laptop. Right. Everyone stop talking and let me work. But she could still feel Marcus's gaze on her, warm and intent, and it took every ounce of her concentration to focus on the code instead of the man standing behind her. 3 hours into the work, Elena's neck was cramping and her eyes burned from staring at screens. She rolled her shoulders, trying to release the tension. Take a break, Marcus said. He'd pulled up a chair beside her sometime in the last hour, close enough that their knees occasionally bumped. You've been at this non-stop. I don't have time for a break. 5 minutes won't kill the operation. He stood and held out his hand. Come with me. Elena hesitated, then took his hand. His palm was warm, calloused in unexpected places, and he helped her up with a gentleness that seemed at odds with everything she knew about him. He led her to a balcony overlooking the compound. The pre-dawn air was cool, and Elena shivered. Without a word, Marcus shrugged off his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders. It was still warm from his body and smelled like him. Thank you. You're doing incredible work in there. He leaned against the railing, looking out at the darkness. I meant what I said. You're exceptional. You hired me because you were desperate. I hired you because I'd been watching you for weeks. Me, he turned to face her. The way you move through that restaurant, you see everything. Who's dangerous? Who's harmless? Who's lying to their date? You read people the way you read code. That's just survival. Growing up where I did, you learned to pay attention. It's more than that. Marcus stepped closer. You could have done anything with your skills. Could have worked for tech companies, made a fortune. Instead, you serve pasta to people who don't even see you. My brother died because I wasn't there, Elena said quietly. Because I was at school, chasing dreams, while he worked double shifts to help with tuition. I came home to find out he'd been shot during a robbery. So yes, I serve pasta now. It's honest work, and it helps my mother, and it's my way of making up for not being there when it mattered. Marcus was silent for a moment. His death wasn't your fault. Logically, I know that. But logic doesn't help much at 3 a.m. when I can't sleep. I understand that more than you know. There was pain in his voice, old and carefully contained. I've made choices that keep me up at night. Things I can't undo. People I've hurt. The insomnia becomes a companion after a while. Elena looked at him. Really looked at him. Beneath the expensive suit and dangerous reputation, she saw someone carrying the same kind of guilt she knew so well. It should have pushed her away. Instead, it made him human. Why did you choose this life? She asked. I didn't choose it. I was born into it. My father ran the organization before me, and his father before him. By the time I was old enough to understand what it meant, I was already too deep to get out. He met her eyes. But I've tried to do it differently. I don't deal drugs. I don't hurt civilians. I have lines I won't cross. But you still cross lines. Yes. He didn't look away. I won't pretend to be something I'm not. I've done things that would horrify you. Made decisions that haunt me. But I've also protected hundreds of families who work for me, kept neighborhoods safe from worse organizations, helped people the system abandoned. That doesn't absolve you. I know. He reached out and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. But maybe it means I'm not completely beyond redemption. Elena's breath caught. She should step back, re-establish boundaries, remind herself that he was a client and a criminal and completely wrong for her in every possible way. Instead, she leaned into his touch. We should get back to work, she whispered, but she didn't move. We should, Marcus agreed, but his thumb traced her jawline with devastating gentleness. They stood there for a moment that stretched into eternity, balanced on the edge of something neither of them should want. Then Elena forced herself to step back. 2 hours left. I need to finish. Elena, please. She shrugged off his jacket and handed it back, immediately missing its warmth. Let's just get through this. Then we can figure out what this is. Marcus nodded slowly, understanding in his eyes. All right, let's save my empire. Then we'll talk. Back in the command room, Elena dove into the work with renewed focus. But everything had changed. She was hyper-aware of Marcus beside her, the occasional brush of his arm against hers, the way he leaned close to see her screen. Got it, she announced suddenly. I've injected corrupting code into their upload stream. Everything they send will be scrambled beyond recovery. But, she hesitated. But what? I found something else. A message hidden in the attack code. She turned the laptop toward him. It says, Ask about Miami 2019. Marcus's face went rigid. all the warmth from the balcony vanishing in an instant. "What happened in Miami?" Elena asked quietly. "Nothing you need to know about. If you want me to actually solve this instead of just delaying it, you need to tell me the truth. This isn't random. Someone's sending you a message." Marcus stood abruptly, pacing away from her. Elena watched the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands clenched and unclenched. Finally he spoke without turning around. "In 2019, we had a problem with an informant, someone feeding information to a rival organization. My people traced it to a technology consultant we'd hired. A kid, really, maybe 25. Smart, ambitious, good with systems. What happened to him?" Marcus turned, and the look in his eyes was pure anguish. "I ordered him questioned. Just questioned, I swear to you. I wanted to know who he was working for, what he'd given them. But the men I sent..." He stopped, his jaw working. "They went too far. By the time I found out, he was dead." "Oh God." Elena felt sick. "I never meant for that to happen. I fired the men responsible. Made sure his family received money, anonymously, obviously. But it doesn't change what happened. It doesn't bring him back." "What was his name?" "Jason Chen." Elena typed rapidly, her hands shaking slightly. "Jason Chen, 25 in 2019, computer science graduate from MIT. Worked as a freelance security consultant. Last seen in Miami, October 2019. Officially listed as missing, presumed dead." She looked up at Marcus. "But he wasn't feeding information to rivals, was he?" "No. I found out later he was trying to expose us. He'd discovered evidence of human trafficking in our shipping operations, something I knew nothing about. A faction I didn't even know existed within my own organization." Marcus's voice was raw. "He was trying to be a hero, and my paranoia got him killed. And now someone who loved him is taking everything from you." Marcus's phone, which Elena had managed to restore limited functionality to, buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You took my brother. I'm taking your life." Elena's heart sank. This wasn't just a hack, it was revenge. And suddenly she understood that saving Marcus's empire meant protecting someone who, however inadvertently, had caused an innocent person's death. But when she looked at him, saw the genuine remorse in his eyes, the weight of guilt he carried, she couldn't reconcile that with the monster she wanted him to be. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I'm so sorry that happened." Marcus looked at her in surprise. "You're sorry?" "Elena, I just told you I'm responsible for someone's death. You're responsible for trusting the wrong people and not knowing what was happening in your own organization. That's not the same as murder." She stood and walked to him. "What happened to Jason Chen was a tragedy, but punishing yourself forever won't bring him back." His sibling clearly doesn't agree. "No, but maybe..." Elena stopped, an idea forming. "Maybe there's a way to give them something better than revenge." "What do you mean?" "I need to use the bathroom," she said abruptly. "Can I?" Marcus looked confused but nodded. "Second door on the left. Vincent will escort you." In the bathroom, Elena pulled out her phone and opened an encrypted messaging app. She typed rapidly. "To whoever's attacking Marcus Santoro, I'm Elena Rodriguez. I'm being paid to stop you. But I think we should talk. You're Jason Chen's sibling, right? What happened to your brother was wrong. But I might be able to help you get real justice instead of digital revenge. Interested?" She included a secure contact method and hit send. Then she flushed the toilet, washed her hands, and returned to find Marcus watching her with those intense eyes that seemed to see straight through her. "Everything all right?" "Just needed a minute. This is intense. We have less than 2 hours." "I know." Elena sat back down, their knees touching. "The corruption is running smoothly. But I want to try something else. I want to trace the attack back to its source. I thought you said that wasn't the priority." "It wasn't. But now I'm curious." She smiled slightly, hoping he couldn't hear her racing heart. "Humor me. I'm expensive." What Elena didn't tell Marcus was that she'd already traced the attack to an apartment in Seattle, and she'd just sent a message to the person behind it, gambling everything on a stranger's desire for real justice over simple revenge. 30 minutes later, her secure app pinged. She angled her body so Marcus couldn't see the screen. "How did you find me?" The message read, "Same way you found Santoro. I'm good at what I do. Your brother Jason was trying to expose human trafficking, wasn't he?" There was a pause. Then, "Yes, he found evidence. They killed him for it. I'm sorry for your loss, but I need you to understand something. Marcus didn't order your brother's death. He didn't even know about the trafficking. Jason died because of rogue operators in an organization Marcus thought he controlled. That doesn't absolve him. No, it doesn't. But it means he's not the monster you think he is. Elena took a breath, acutely aware of Marcus working beside her, unaware of her betrayal. I have a better idea than burning his empire. Let me give you something more valuable. Real evidence of the trafficking operation. Names, dates, locations. Enough to dismantle the people actually responsible for Jason's death. Marcus will help. Why would he do that? Because he's been trying to find those people for years, and because I'll make him. Elena glanced at Marcus, saw him focused on his phone, and typed quickly. Call off the attack. Give me 2 hours. If I don't deliver, you can restart everything and I won't stop you. There was a long pause. Then, 2 hours. But Elena, if you're lying to me, I'll destroy you both. Fair enough. Elena deleted the conversation and looked up to find Marcus staring at her. Who were you texting? Her heart stopped. What? You've been angled away from me for 10 minutes typing on your phone. And you just made a decision. He stood slowly, and there was danger in his movements. What did you do? Elena could lie. Should lie. But when she looked into his eyes that had started to trust her, she found she couldn't. I made contact with Jason's sibling. Her name is May. She's a programmer in Seattle, and she's the one attacking you. The room went silent. Vincent's hand moved to his weapon. Marcus's face was unreadable. You betrayed me. No, I found you a solution. Elena stood to face him, refusing to back down. May doesn't want money. She wants justice. And I can give it to her, if you help me. Why would I help the person trying to destroy me? Because what happened to Jason Chen is eating you alive. I can see it in your eyes, Marcus. You've been carrying that guilt for years. Elena stepped closer, close enough to touch him. Help me find the people who actually killed him. The traffickers you didn't even know existed. We dismantle them, give May the evidence she needs for real prosecutions, and everyone gets what they want. Except I still go down. No, because the evidence we give May will be specifically about the trafficking operation and the people who killed Jason, not your whole organization. You get to continue, cleaner, better, without the rot you didn't even know about. Marcus stared at her for a long moment. You're asking me to trust you after you went behind my back. I'm asking you to trust that I see who you really are. Not the monster everyone thinks you are, but the man who's been trying to make things right. You don't know me, Elena. Don't I? She reached up and placed her hand on his chest, feeling his heart race beneath her palm. I've watched you tonight. The way you treat your people with respect. How you listened when I explained technical concepts instead of pretending you understood. The guilt in your eyes when you talk about Jason. That's not a monster. That's someone trying to be better than the world he was born into. I've done terrible things. So have I. I've hacked into systems I shouldn't have, broken laws, compromised security. We're all trying to survive in a complicated world. Elena moved closer still. But tonight, we have a chance to do something actually good. To give Mei Chen justice for her brother and clean the rot out of your organization. Don't you want that? Marcus looked down at her hand on his chest, then back to her face. If I do this, if I help you, and it goes wrong, we're both finished. Then we'd better make sure it doesn't go wrong. He reached up and covered her hand with his, holding it against his heart. Why are you doing this? You could have just taken the money and left. Because when you told me about Jason Chen, you looked broken. And I realized I couldn't walk away from someone who feels as guilty as I do about things they couldn't control. Elena's voice dropped to a whisper. Maybe we both deserve a chance at redemption. Marcus pulled her closer, his other hand coming up to cup her face. You're either the bravest person I've ever met, or the most foolish. Can't I be both? He smiled, genuinely smiled, and Elena felt her heart flip. What do you need from me? Access to your complete files on the shipping operations. Everything. And then you need to trust me to do this right. I don't trust easily. I know. But I think you trust me. She tilted her face up toward his. Don't you? For an answer, Marcus kissed her. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was fierce and desperate. The kiss of two people who'd been circling each other all night and finally gave in. Elena gasped against his mouth and he took advantage, deepening the kiss until she forgot where she was, forgot the danger, forgot everything except the feeling of his hands in her hair and his body pressed against hers. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. That was a terrible idea. The worst, Elena agreed, already pulling him back for another kiss. Vincent cleared his throat loudly from across the room. "Boss, we have 90 minutes. They separated reluctantly. Elena's lips felt swollen, her body alive with sensation. Marcus looked equally affected, his careful control shattered. "Right," Elena said, trying to collect her scattered thoughts. "Work. We should work. Definitely." But Marcus didn't step away. His hand found hers, threading their fingers together. "But after we save my empire and deliver justice to Mei Chen, you and I are going to talk about this." "About what? The kiss?" "About everything. Because Elena Rodriguez, you've completely destroyed my carefully ordered world, and I'm not letting you disappear when this is over." Her heart soared, even as her rational mind screamed warnings. "One disaster at a time, Marcus." "Agreed." He squeezed her hand once, then released it. "Show me what you need." The next 90 minutes were a blur of frantic activity. Elena walked Marcus through accessing his most secure files, the ones even his tech team didn't know about. Together they uncovered the trafficking operation that had existed like a parasite within his organization. "I can't believe this was happening under my nose," Marcus muttered, reading through evidence of human cargo hidden in legitimate shipments. "These people were good at hiding. They used your legitimate operations as cover." Elena was copying files, organizing evidence, creating a prosecutable case. But look, here's the connection to Jason Chen. He'd infiltrated this specific cell, gathered evidence. When they discovered what he was doing, they killed him and made it look like he was the traitor. Marcus's face was pale. "My God, I executed an innocent man because I believed their lies." "You didn't execute him. Your people did, against your orders. It's the same thing." "It's not." Elena turned to him. "And you're about to prove it by helping take them down." She messaged May. "I have everything. Sending it now. In exchange, you call off the attack on Marcus. He didn't know about the trafficking or order your brother's death. The real killers are in this file." The response came quickly. "How do I know this isn't a trap?" "Because I'm including evidence that could take Marcus down too. Bank records, communications, everything. I'm trusting you to use only what's relevant to Jason's case and let the rest go. If you want pure revenge, you can destroy everything. But if you want real justice, focus on the people who actually killed your brother." There was a longer pause. Then, "Send it." Elena looked at Marcus. "This is it. Once I send this, May will have everything. She could destroy you anyway. But you don't think she will. I think she wants justice more than revenge. There's a difference." Elena's finger hovered over the send button. "But I need you to know, if this goes wrong, I'll protect you. Whatever it takes." Marcus took her face in both hands and kissed her softly, thoroughly, in a way that made her toes curl. "You magnificent, impossible woman. Send it." She hit send. For 60 seconds, nothing happened. Then Elena's phone rang. An unknown number. She put it on speaker. "This is Mei Chen." The voice was young, female, exhausted. "I received your files." I'm sorry about your brother," Marcus said quietly. "I'm sorry I didn't know what was happening in my own organization. I'm sorry my paranoia led to his death. There's nothing I can say that will make it right." May was silent for a moment. "You're Marcus Santoro." "Yes. My brother was trying to stop monsters, and you killed him for it." "I know. I've lived with that guilt every day for 5 years. I've tried to find the people responsible, but they were too well hidden." Marcus's voice was raw. "But now Elena's given you everything you need to destroy them. The people who actually murdered Jason. Their names, their locations, their entire operation. It won't bring him back, but at least you can make sure they pay for what they did." "I have the evidence." May's voice cracked slightly. "It's comprehensive. Names, dates, locations, financial trails. Everything. Use it," Marcus said firmly. "Take it to the FBI, to journalists, to whoever will listen. Destroy these people the right way, legally, publicly. Make sure what they did to Jason becomes known. And what about you? This file has evidence against you too." Elena and Marcus exchanged a glance. This was the moment of truth. "I'm trusting you to make the right choice," Marcus said. "I can't undo what happened to your brother, but I can make sure the people who actually killed him face justice. And I can promise you, on his memory, that I'll never let something like this happen in my organization again." There was a long silence. Then May spoke, her voice steadier. "The attack stops now. I'm pulling everything back. But Marcus, If I ever find out you lied, if there's even a hint that you're involved in trafficking or that you've hurt another innocent person, I'll release everything, and I'll make sure there's nowhere you can hide. That's fair. And Elena, May's tone softened. Thank you. For seeing that there was a better way. For giving me what I really needed. Your brother deserved justice, Elena said quietly. I hope this helps bring you some peace. After May hung up, the command room erupted in relieved chaos. Guards were cheering. Vincent was running diagnostics, and the screens were slowly coming back to life as May reversed her attack. But Elena only saw Marcus. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe, his face buried in her hair. You saved me, he whispered, in more ways than one. She wrapped her arms around him, feeling his heart pound against hers. We saved each other. When they finally pulled apart, Vincent was standing nearby with a duffel bag. The $75,000, as promised. Elena stared at the money, then at Marcus. I can't take this. We had a deal. The deal was before I knew everything. Before, she gestured between them. Before this got complicated. Marcus picked up the bag and held it out to her. Take it. You earned it. And Elena, this doesn't make you complicit in anything I do. This is payment for exceptional work, nothing more. She took the bag slowly, feeling the weight of it. $75,000. More money than she'd seen in her entire life. Enough to change everything. What happens now? She asked. Now? Marcus reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture already becoming familiar. Now I have my tech team do a complete security overhaul. I personally review every operation in my organization, and I make sure nothing like this ever happens again. That's not what I meant. He smiled, understanding. What happens with us? Yes. Marcus took her hand, threading their fingers together. That depends. Can you accept what I am? I'm not going to pretend I'm going to become a saint, Elena. I'm still going to run this organization. I'm still going to operate in gray areas. But I swear to you, no more trafficking, no more innocent casualties, no more Jason Chens. I don't know if I can, Elena admitted. Everything I believe tells me I should walk away, but when I'm with you I feel alive for the first time since my brother died. Like maybe there's more to life than just surviving. She looked up at him. You scare me, Marcus. Not because I think you'll hurt me, but because I'm terrified of how much I already feel for you. I'm terrified too. He pulled her closer. I've spent 15 years keeping everyone at arm's length. It's safer that way. But you walked into my life carrying a laptop and completely destroyed every wall I've built. So what do? We take it slow. We figure this out one day at a time. Marcus kissed her forehead gently. I know I'm asking you to accept an impossible situation. But Elena, I think you might be worth changing for. Might be. He laughed. Definitely are worth changing for. Vincent cleared his throat. Boss, the sun's coming up. If Ms. Rodriguez needs a ride home, I'll take her, Marcus said immediately. But Elena, would you have breakfast with me first? Somewhere neutral, public, normal? Are you asking me on a date? I'm asking if you'll give us a chance. Elena knew she should say no. Should take the money, walk away, return to her safe, simple life serving pasta and pretending the last 8 hours never happened. Instead, she said, I know a place that makes excellent pancakes, much better than the ones you attempted earlier. Marcus grinned. Is this you making fun of my cooking skills? It's me establishing that our relationship needs clearly defined roles. You handle the dangerous criminal empire. I handle anything involving food preparation. Deal. He kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. Though I should warn you, I'm planning to be very distracting while you cook. I'm counting on it. 3 weeks later, Elena was closing up Marino's when her phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. Rooftop, 20 minutes, dress warm. She smiled. His messages were always cryptic, always led somewhere unexpected. In the past 3 weeks, they'd fallen into a strange but wonderful rhythm. He'd show up at the restaurant during her breaks. They'd walk through the city at night, and he'd tell her about his efforts to clean up his organization while she talked about her plans to eventually return to technology work. It wasn't normal. It wasn't simple, but it was theirs. Elena changed out of her work clothes, pulled on a warm jacket, and took an Uber to Marcus's building. The doorman knew her now, simply nodding and letting her through to the private elevator. On the rooftop, she found Marcus standing by the edge, looking out at the Chicago skyline. He'd set up a small table with candles, food from her favorite Thai restaurant, and a bottle of wine. You did all this? She asked, approaching him. I had help. Vincent is surprisingly good at romantic setup. He pulled out a chair for her. I wanted to do something special. Why? Is it an anniversary? Did I miss something? No, I just... He paused, looking almost nervous. I wanted to celebrate you. Everything you've done, everything you are. You've changed my life, Elena. She sat down, her heart full. You've changed mine, too. They ate slowly, talking about everything and nothing. Marcus told her about his day, meetings, negotiations, the legitimate parts of his business he was trying to expand. Elena talked about a difficult customer and her mother's improving health now that the medical bills were paid. After dinner, Marcus stood and held out his hand. Dance with me? There's no music. He pulled out his phone and started a slow jazz song. Now there is. Elena let him pull her close, swaying gently under the stars. His arms were strong around her, his heartbeat steady against her cheek. I got some news today, Marcus said quietly. Machen's evidence led to 17 arrests. The trafficking operation is completely dismantled, and Jason's name was officially cleared. The FBI released a statement acknowledging he was working to expose criminal activity when he was killed. Elena pulled back to look at him. That's wonderful. It's because of you. You found a way to turn something terrible into justice. He cupped her face in his hands. I don't deserve you, Elena Rodriguez. Probably not, she agreed with a smile. But you're stuck with me anyway. Promise? Promise. As long as you keep your word about running a cleaner operation. I am. Every day I'm trying to be better. For you, but also for myself. He kissed her softly. I love you. I know it's too soon, and I know our situation is complicated, but I need you to know I love you. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. I love you too. Even though you're a terrible cook and your world is dangerous and this whole thing is probably a disaster waiting to happen. Probably, he agreed, grinning. But it's our disaster. They kissed under the Chicago stars, two broken people who'd found something whole in each other. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't what either of them had expected, but it was real, and it was theirs. And that was enough. 6 months passed. Elena quit Marino's, but not to join Marcus's organization. Instead, she started her own cybersecurity consulting firm, specializing in helping small businesses protect themselves from the kind of attacks that had nearly destroyed Marcus. She was good at it, and word spread quickly. Within months, she had more clients than she could handle. Marcus kept his promise. He restructured his organization, cutting out illegal operations and focusing on legitimate businesses. It was a slow transformation, but he was committed. Some of his people left, unwilling to accept the changes. Others stayed, grateful for the chance to work in daylight instead of shadows. They moved in together, a compromise between his luxurious penthouse and her cramped apartment. Marcus learned to cook simple meals, though he still burned water occasionally. Elena learned to navigate his complex world, meeting his associates and establishing herself as someone who wouldn't be intimidated or ignored. It wasn't easy. There were arguments about boundaries, about safety, about what they could and couldn't accept in each other's choices. But they worked through it, learning to communicate, to compromise, to trust. One evening, Elena came home to find Marcus in the kitchen, actually successfully making dinner for once. She watched him from the doorway, this dangerous man who'd become her home. What are you smiling about? He asked, noticing her. Just thinking about that night, when you ambushed me on the street and offered me $50,000. $75,000. You negotiated, remember? Best negotiation of my life. She walked over and wrapped her arms around him from behind. Who knew getting kidnapped by a mafia boss would turn out so well? Technically, you got into the car voluntarily. Details. She kissed his shoulder. I love you, you know that? He turned in her arms, pulling her close. I love you too, even though you're a terrible negotiator who should have asked for $100,000. She laughed. Next time I save your empire, I will. There won't be a next time. You've made my systems so secure that even you couldn't hack them. Want to bet? Marcus kissed her, deep and thorough. Absolutely not. I've learned never to bet against you. As they stood in their kitchen, dinner burning forgotten on the stove, some things never changed. Elena reflected on how strange life could be. She'd started that night just trying to survive, to make rent, to get through another day. Instead, she'd found love in the most unexpected place, with the most impossible person. She'd found purpose beyond survival. and she'd discovered that sometimes the line between right and wrong, between good and bad, wasn't as clear as she'd once believed. Marcus Santoro was still a criminal. Elena Rodriguez was still too good for his world. But together, they were becoming something neither of them could have been alone. Better, stronger, more complete. The food's burning, she murmured against his lips. I don't care. We should probably… Elena. He looked into her eyes with such intensity that her breath caught. Marry me. She froze. What? Marry me. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a simple diamond ring, elegant and perfect. I know it's crazy. I know we're complicated. But I want to spend the rest of my life being complicated with you. So what do you say? Will you marry a reformed criminal who can't cook and comes with more baggage than an airport? Elena felt tears streaming down her face. She should think about this, should be rational, should consider all the reasons this was a terrible idea. Instead, she said, yes, yes, absolutely, yes. Marcus slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. The smoke alarm went off, announcing that dinner was definitely ruined, but neither of them cared. They had each other. They had their impossible, complicated, beautiful love, and that was more than enough. 1 year later, Elena stood in front of a mirror in a simple white dress, her mother fussing with her hair. You look beautiful, mi amor, her mother said, tears in her eyes. Your brother would be so proud. Elena touched the locket around her neck. Inside was a picture of her brother, her father, and her younger self. I hope so. There was a knock at the door. May Chen walked in, elegant in a pale blue dress. Are you ready? May asked. Over the past year, Elena and May had become unlikely friends. After the dust settled, they'd met for coffee, then dinner, sharing their grief over the people they'd lost and their hope for the future. May had become part of Elena's small circle of trusted friends, and when Elena asked her to be a bridesmaid, May had cried and said yes. I'm terrified, Elena admitted. That's normal. May squeezed her hand. But Elena, you and Marcus, you're good together. You make each other better. That's rare, says the woman who almost destroyed him. May smiled. Which is how I know he's genuine. He kept his promises. He's really changed. And seeing how he looks at you, that's not something you fake. Elena took a deep breath. Okay, I'm ready. The ceremony was small. Just close friends and family, held in a garden overlooking the city. Marcus stood at the altar in a perfectly tailored suit, but Elena barely noticed the clothes. She only saw his eyes, filled with love and promise, and a future neither of them could have imagined a year ago. As she walked down the aisle, she thought about that night. The fear, the danger, the impossible choice that had led her here. She thought about Jason Chen, whose death had brought her and Marcus together in the strangest way. And she thought about her brother, hoping wherever he was, he understood why she'd chosen this complicated, beautiful, imperfect love. When she reached Marcus, he took her hands, and the rest of the world fell away. Elena, he said during his vows, his voice thick with emotion, you walked into my life at my darkest moment and showed me light. You believed I could be better when I didn't believe it myself. You gave me love I never thought I deserved. I promised to spend every day trying to be worthy of you. Elena wiped away tears. Marcus, you terrified me. You still do sometimes. But you also showed me that life is more than just surviving. It's about choosing love, even when it's complicated, finding hope in unexpected places, and building something beautiful from broken pieces. I choose you, every day, forever. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Marcus kissed her with such tenderness that Elena felt her heart might burst. As they walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, Elena caught sight of Vincent dabbing his eyes with a handkerchief, her mother beaming with joy, and May smiling through tears. At the reception, Marcus pulled her onto the dance floor for their first dance. As they swayed together, he whispered, "Thank you for saving me." "Thank you for being worth saving," she whispered back. "So," he said with a mischievous glint in his eye, "how does it feel to be Mrs. Santoro?" Elena pretended to consider. "Ask me again after you successfully make dinner without setting off the smoke alarm." He laughed, pulling her closer. "I love you, impossible woman. I love you too, impossible man." And as they danced under twinkling lights, surrounded by people who loved them, Elena realized that sometimes the best love stories don't start with meet-cutes or fairy tale romances. Sometimes they start with danger and desperation and impossible choices. Sometimes they start with a waitress, a laptop, and a criminal who needed saving more than he knew. And sometimes, just sometimes, they end with forever. 5 years later, Elena pushed open the door to her office building, balancing a coffee in one hand and her laptop bag in the other. Rodriguez Cybersecurity Solutions was etched on the glass door, a company that now employed 15 people and had contracts with businesses across 3 states. Her phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. Board meeting ran late. I'll pick up dinner. Your choice, Italian or Thai? She smiled, typing back, Thai, and don't forget the spring rolls this time. You hold 1 grudge for 5 years. 2 grudges. You also forgot them on our anniversary. That was 1 time. Elena laughed, pocketing her phone. Their life had settled into something wonderfully ordinary. Marcus ran his legitimate business empire, real estate, restaurants, import or export, that actually stayed legal. She'd helped him build security systems so robust that even government agencies occasionally consulted with them. They'd bought a house in a quiet neighborhood, adopted a dog named Cypher, had dinner with Mei Chen once a month, visited Elena's mother every Sunday. It was normal. It was peaceful. It was perfect. That evening, as they sat on their couch eating Thai food and watching a terrible movie, Marcus pulled her close. Happy? He asked. Incredibly. No regrets about that night? Elena thought about it. Really thought about it. The fear, the danger, the impossible choice that had changed everything. Not one single regret, she said firmly. That night gave me you. Gave us this. I'd do it all over again in a heartbeat. Marcus kissed her temple. I thank God every day that you got into that car. I thank God every day that you can't cook. If you'd been able to make a decent meal on your own, you might never have come to Marino's. True. My incompetence brought us together. A beautiful love story. We should write a book. Who would believe it? Criminal boss falls in love with waitress who saves his empire with a laptop and sheer audacity? It does sound far-fetched, Elena agreed. But it's ours. It's ours, Marcus echoed, pulling her closer. And in the quiet of their living room, with bad TV playing and Thai food containers scattered around them, Elena Rodriguez Santoro knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Sometimes love doesn't make sense. Sometimes it's dangerous and complicated and completely illogical. But sometimes, just sometimes, it's also real and true and absolutely worth every risk.